The hall was silent when Traore stepped forward, his presence pulling every eye toward him as if the air itself had thickened. His words came slow, deliberate, each one cutting through the tension like a blade slicing cloth. This was not the language of cautious diplomacy, this was the language of a man who had decided the time for asking was over. Behind him stood representatives from nations that had been ignored, underestimated and exploited for decades. The flags told their own story, African colors side by side with Middle Eastern banners, a sight that alone was enough to unsettle foreign observers. He spoke of unity not as an ideal but as a weapon, a shield forged in shared struggle and the hunger for true independence. Every sentence carried the weight of unfinished history and the promise of an ending written by their own hands. The room was heavy with the realization that this was not an alliance on paper, it was a declaration of intent to shift the world's center of gravity. Delegates exchanged glances, some with fire in their eyes, others with fear because they understood the cost of such defiance. Traore's voice did not rise in anger, yet it commanded the kind of silence that comes when everyone knows the moment will be remembered. He named the nations bound in this pact, each one a pillar in a structure designed to stand without the permission of Brussels or Tel Aviv. The terms were not hidden, they were laid bare with a boldness meant to signal that there would be no shadows in this alliance. Trade, security, technology and cultural exchange, all to be handled within the network of allies free from the strings of old colonial powers. It was the kind of announcement that forces the powerful to reconsider their maps and the powerless to believe they might not be powerless after all. The Middle Eastern bloc's presence was more than symbolic, it was the opening of a door to markets, ports and defense systems the West had long sought to control. In that moment, Africa's Sahel and the rising powers of the Gulf appeared as one force, linked by shared interests and the refusal to bow. The energy in the room shifted from cautious interest to an almost electric current of possibility. It was no longer about survival, it was about position, dominance and the right to shape their own futures without interference. No applause followed, only the heavy sound of understanding settling in as those present absorbed the depth of what had just been revealed. Outside the building, crowds gathered, their voices carrying a mix of pride and disbelief at the scale of what their leader had just promised. And somewhere far away in the offices of those who once believed they could dictate terms to these nations, a different sound filled the air, the sound of plans unraveling.